Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'm Deb Hawkinson, President of FRA. Forest Resources Association is the only national advocacy organization for wood supply chain companies, including wood consumers, landowners, and suppliers. We focus on the safe, efficient, and sustainable harvest of forest products and their transport from woods to the mill, and we advocate here in Washington at the federal level on policies that impact the forest product supply chain. But much of the wood supply chain's efficiency depends on effective communication between suppliers, consumers, and landowners. FRA looks to find opportunities to continually strengthen the relations within the supply chain, and this includes providing supplier-consumer workshops to our members. Today's webinar will walk you through what this involves and provide testimonials on its success. Eric Kingsley, FRA's Northeast Coordinator, will be leading the webinar today, and Eric, please take it from here.
Thank you, Deb. Again, Eric Kingsley. I'm FRA's Northeast Regional Coordinator, and today I'm talking about the Supplier Consumer Workshops. A quick introduction at the high level. These workshops are designed to provide open communication between mills and their suppliers. These are facilitated by FRA staff at the mill or near the mill location, and the job here is to get results very specific to that location, to that mill, to that situation. FRA has conducted over 200 of these workshops in 150 locations. What that tells you is that many previous participants have found these so valuable, after a few years they've done them again. We've reached over 2,000 suppliers and have conducted these in 25 states. And while we call them supplier consumer workshops, I'd also note that there may be other ways to use this same format to fit particular needs in your business. For example, large landowners could conduct these with the landowner and the landowner staff being one party, and then the contract loggers that work on those lands being another party. If you have an idea of how we might use this format to benefit you, your situation, your organization, we'd be happy to talk to you about that. So what's the wood fiber supply chain? Very simply, it's from the land to the mill. That includes the landowners, the loggers and truckers that work on those lands and transport wood to the manufacturing facility, includes the manufacturing facility, and also importantly includes that manufacturing facility's wood procurement team, which could be in-house or contracted, but that wood procurement team is in many ways the face of the manufacturing facility to the suppliers. FRA's membership spans this entire range from growing, harvesting, transporting, and utilizing wood. And we spend a lot of time working with you and with your team to figure out how to support this entire supply chain. These workshops are a key way to do that. When a workshop begins, two groups meet separately. And so loggers in one room, or suppliers in one room, mill personnel in another. And they identify and record any issues, both positive and those that are strain factors. This really allows folks to get something on the table, but do so in an anonymized way. After meeting separately, the groups then come back together and as a group review what are those positive factors and what are those strain factors. Importantly then, taking a look at the strain factors, prioritize those and develop possible solutions. The entire goal here, or the primary goal here, is to identify those strain factors and look for ways to move them to the positive side. Ground rules, fairly simple. Any factors affecting the business relationship can be aired at the workshop, except for those that might violate federal and state antitrust laws. Examples of that would be individual contract rates, purchase prices, anything relative to competitive stumpage bidding, or anything else that's going to run afoul of antitrust law. So that's what can't be talked about. What can be talked about? Well, really anything, but some of the things that are frequently talked about are wood quality, wood specifications, any truck unloading issues, wood inventory, woodyard policies, safety, and truck turnaround time. Importantly, again, as discussed previously, no discussion of prices or contract rates because of the obvious antitrust issues those raise. Here's a sample workshop schedule, and I'd point out this is set for an afternoon evening, but really this can be adjusted to meet any schedule that works for you and your team. So the first thing that happens is there's a welcome, self-introduction, and everyone in the same room understands the workshop objectives and the ground rules. After that, the breakout sessions, as discussed earlier, the wood suppliers in one room, the mill in the other, really setting out what are those issues, and both positive and friction causing. Following that, the group gets back together, shares a meal. If it's not mealtime, shares a snack, but has a little bit of opportunity there for some social interaction before really the key of the workshop gets going, and that is the final group session, where the issues that were identified in the individual sessions are brought to the fore, discussed in the entire group, prioritized as a group, and solutions are sought and found. After that occurs, which can take up to a couple hours, there are some brief closing remarks, any discussion of what worked in the workshop and what could be better, and any commitment to follow-up that's necessary. Why do these? In our members' experience and in FRA's experience, these workshops can help build trust and commitment in both directions between the supplier and the consuming mill, and that's obviously critically important. It can also help the bottom line by helping reduce costs for all parties and by improving efficiency. Past attendees have noted how important these are. For example, loggers said, I think it's an excellent forum for two sides of a business that need each other to get together and understand each other's issues. Mill managers noted, I was surprised at how simple some of the issues were to solve. A few years ago, FRA prepared a video on these workshops, and in that video, mill manager Chuck Bogatai said the following: my advice to anyone out listening to this program would be give it a try. I was somewhat skeptical at the beginning because I thought it would be a very controversial type of meeting. We really wouldn't get anything done. As it turned out, we really got to some of the primary issues, found that people in the wood supply business are just like the people that work in our woodyard, and everyone wants to do the right thing and get business done. But who participates? Fairly simply, company and wood suppliers. And from the company, it's important to have the on-site leadership there, be that general manager, plant manager, as well as anyone that interacts with the suppliers. That obviously includes the entire wood procurement team, but can also include those in the woodyard, for example, unloading operators or scalers. We've typically found this group to be somewhere 8 to 15 people, depending on the organization. Separately, you're going to want, on the supplier side, a representative sample of wood suppliers. So that obviously includes some of your largest suppliers, but also perhaps some smaller folks that can serve as a representative of your larger supply base. And if trucking issues are expected to surface, it's important to have not only company representatives, but people that drive trucks into your yard so that you can hear directly if any issues exist there. Typically, we've found these groups to be 12 to 18 folks, again, depending on the mill and the situation. In order to conduct a workshop, it's fairly simple. Contact your regional FRA manager. In the Northeast, that would be me. In the Southeast, in the Appalachia, in South Central region, that'd be Rick. In the Lake States, that's Steve, and in the West, that's Vicki. You can also go ahead and directly contact Deb Hawkinson. Her information's on the screen, and she'll make sure you get to the right folks. What's this cost? It's a $1,000 workshop fee, plus any cost associated with getting the FRA facilitator there, and any meal or facility charges. We found the all-in price is typically somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000. When you think about that as part of a mill's total wood budget, obviously a very, very small percentage, and can yield enormous benefits down the road. We like to set a date a couple months ahead of time, make sure that key leadership at the company is going to be available to attend the workshop. About a month ahead of time, reach out to key suppliers and get their commitment, and follow up with everyone very shortly before the workshop in order to make sure everyone's going to be attending and ready to participate. With that, we've invited a couple FRA members who have experience with these workshops to briefly share their experience. And with that, I'd like to introduce DJ Aderman of Future Wood Corp.
Hi, this is DJ Aderman. I'm president of Future Wood Corp up here in northern Wisconsin. And I can truly attest that these workshops were, one of the best things that our company has ever done. We were fortunate enough probably just over 15 years ago to be invited to a workshop that a local mill was having, and really was impressed with the way that the workshop went. We thought it was an opportunity to be very, very candid. They had their key personnel there, and really through that process, we've gone ahead and implemented these workshops every 3 years with the FRA staff. We represent a paper mill up here in Park Falls, Wisconsin, Flammable River Papers, as well as the Johnson Timber Corporation chip mills. Again, to bring in these key managers, whether it be the plant manager or, our case, a small company, the CEO or the president, along with those key, personnel from the wood yard, really made a difference. In fact, we've gone as far as bringing in some of our clerical staff in an effort to help our foresters out in the woods just answer some of the very simple questions that we found out that maybe weren't being communicated very well by our foresters, but could be handled very, very nicely here from our office staff. I think one of the things that we've done at the last workshop that we had is we had some of our larger landowners come into play, and being that they are part of the overall supply chain, it was really neat to watch the dialogue going back and forth a little bit with the wood spec being talked by the plant foreman to the contractors, to what is expected of the landowners when they sold that wood. And I think it really gave those landowners a really good understanding of what that expectation was, and really, I believe, improved the relationships there. As Eric indicated on his presentation, it really does, I think, unify, the commitment and trust. It is truly reinforced in these workshops, and I honestly, in my tenure of 30 years of experience in this industry, I can't believe that there's a better tool out there right now to bring everybody together in the supply chain. Strongly recommended.
Thank you, DJ. And we're also joined by logger Joe Young of Low Country Forest Products in South Carolina. Joe?
Eric, thanks for giving me this opportunity. As a lot of people don't know, but I was one of the founding members of this supply chain workshop. We were an ad hoc committee for a season at the FRA, and then after a lot of planning and had the regional manager from Georgetown, Robert Richardson, got really caught up into this, and we began making a plan to have these workshops. We actually we actually had a workshop to plan the workshop, I'll be honest with you. And then we've had two of those in Georgetown in the years since that time. Both of them were very successful. There was a lot of take back and forth, between the suppliers and also the mill. But then for them to be successful, you have to have the mill manager, you have to have the woodyard manager, you have to have a procurement staff of the timberlands group, forestry group, and some of the crane operators if they have time to get some of them in, so that you can really have a good back and forth discussion of things that we as loggers can do to help improve the life of the guys in the plant, to help them out. For instance, I remember in one of our sessions we found out about 2-inch knots being left on the top of a tree, what kind of handicap that can cause. Didn't cause it every time, but when it did, it really cost them a time, because of one little thing like that, and asking us to trim our trees up more even than we had been doing in the past. Things that we didn't even know were a problem. That's just one little simple thing I remember in the first workshop that we had. And in the second workshop, it was we had it about a year later, because Robin being the regional manager, decided he was going to have a workshop in every mill that he was over the supply force. And so we got an awful lot of support from International Paper Company for these, at that time, for these meetings. I think that's still another good way to go after it, is to get in touch with the people in authority at a mill, not only in the mill but also with woodlands, because you need both sides there sharing. It was great how you would separate in the beginning. We found this to be very successful, and all of the loggers or wood suppliers would get into one room and begin to share things that they would like to see changed in the mill, and then you would prioritize them and come up with your 10 most important problems that you thought could be solved that would really make your life easier as a logger. And then the folks from the mill and the woodlands were in another room doing exactly the same thing, coming up with 10 things, through the process of elimination, coming up with the 10 priority items that they thought would improve their ability to make paper cheaper and also more productive, which in the long run would help us loggers anyway. And so then we'd come back together, and each one of us would present our 10 so that everybody on the other side could hear it, and it wasn't like present it and you got to do it kind of thing. It was just suggestions and ideas of things that were troubling us, and then by the same token, the mill folks would do the same thing, and again we'd try to end up with the top 10 out of the 2, that needed to be worked on. Well, one of the best tools that I ever saw used in our industry for relationships. And thanks for the opportunity to share, you and Deb.
Well, thank you, Joe. I appreciate it, and thank you, DJ, as well.
Yes. Thank you both. Thank you, Eric, for walking us through that, and definitely appreciate the time that you've taken, DJ and Joe, to share your experiences. I hope everyone that's watched this video on our workshops can see how it would benefit your organization. I know FRA region managers and I want to hear from you. If you have any questions or you'd like to start the process to begin a workshop at your location, please don't hesitate to give us a call. And again, thank you for taking the time, and hope everyone has a great week. Take care.